January 1997. And a lot of people who went might remember it as the Fog game. I think one of the headlines in the papers was "Mystifying Night" as Tranmere beat Norwich. And I remember it was I remember going. I remember going in the car and I was so excited. And I remember just the senses being completely intoxicated. Just I remember sat in the main stand because it was my first game, and we parked up, and I remember walking, and you just walk around the ground, and obviously the lights are on, and just the smell of hot dogs, burgers, deep heat coming from the players' changing room, and I was like, oh my, and just the buzz of people walking around the car park, and I was like, my eyes couldn't see, I was just enamored, and then my dad goes and buys me a program, and we take the journey up, and a lot of people sort of remember this, but I will never forget just seeing it for the first time. And even though you couldn't see a lot of the pitch because of the fog, and looking to my right and seeing the Kop, and hearing it, and I was like, oh my god, and that was it. I was just absolutely hooked, and it was just incredible, just the excitement. And I remember my dad going through the names of each team and one to look out for, and he said, I'll give him credit for this. He said, Darren Eadie, watch out for him. He's a good player, Norwich. And Eadie scored after about 40 seconds. So welcome to Tranmere. Not that anyone saw it. We just saw a few yellow shirts congregating at the corner flag because he'd scored. And so we were 1-0 down. But I think, we win the game 3-1. I think Paul Cook scored 2 and Ian Moore got the other one. And we were just brilliant. I mean, the fog did clear sort of as the game wore on, so it did get a bit easier to see. And Pat Nevin played, and I remember all I said to my dad after the game was, "Oh my god, how good's Pat Nevin? Pat Nevin, Pat Nevin, Pat Nevin! Just this magician on the wing, unplayable." And the Kop was full and loud, and I couldn't wait to go again. I wasn't interested in going to Everton or doing anything else. That was it. It was just the senses, Matt. It was just you're hit by so much as a young lad, and you love football anyway. And I played and stuff like that. I played the league and with my local little team. But going to an actual live game and seeing it all, it was just incredible. You speaking to, you listen to the. I was listening to the conversations at half time when you go down for food, and just so I could pick up little tidbits and learn from people, and they're talking about this player and that player and what the ref might or might not have done, and you're trying to pick up things all the time and learn. And it was just amazing. And again, it helped that we were pretty good. We were still like you alluded to earlier. That was probably when we're just sort of coming down, unfortunately, from when we were really, really, top division. And I think we were still challenging that year. I still think promotion was the aim that year from Division One. We were still a pretty decent outfit. But I was just, it was just an absolute blow to the senses. And I think, you take, when my daughter's old enough, I'll take her, and you wonder if it's going to be the same. I think I was very fortunate that my first game was at a time, as you say, when we were still a very, very, very good side, and the stadium was probably busier than it is now. And the match day I know people sort of scoff at this somewhat, but the match day experience was probably a bit better. But I was just enamored with it all. Just the night, the lights, the smells, the noise, the goals, the roars when the goals went in, watching professional footballers play live. It was unbelievable. And as I say, that was it. There was no sort of dissuading me or pushing me towards another side after that. It was Tranmere for me. And it was just a case of how many games could my dad take me to after that.
So Tranmere win 3-1. Paul Cook and Ian Thomas Moore score before half time, and then Cook gets his second, Tranmere's third after the break to put the game to bed. A front line that day of Ian Moore and Pat Nevin playing just off him, I presume, with Gary Jones introduced in the second half as well. So that was your first taste. You're going to take your daughter in a few years, and she'll probably see strikers the equivalent of Guy Maggio and Shamir Fenlon up front.
That's it, isn't it? And I look today, and it does make me sad because I'm not blaming anyone who people who work for the club, I'm sure, are overworked and underpaid and stuff. But I sit in the Johnny King now. And sort of when I first started going, it was the main stand, and then I moved to the Cowsheds, and then I got my first season ticket in the Johnny King, and I've been there ever since. And it's a state now. Like when you go down, it's really bad. There's rubbish and stuff everywhere, and I don't think the tallies have ever worked. And that, and you know, and that doesn't bother a lot of people, and I get that. And if you're just literally only caring about the football and the football, fine, like that's your prerogative as a fan. But if we're trying to encourage the next generation here, like I was, like I was hooked. It was fantastic. I see some kids now, and especially because there's far more distractions now. I mean, I couldn't just sit on my phone and get Twitter out or whatever, or get my tablet out when I first started going, and that's obviously kids can do that now. But I mean, I always think if your first game was that Barnet game, and never mind the rubbish that we saw on the pitch that day, the stadium is an absolute mess. It's awful. What are we doing as a club to encourage people? Nothing, I don't think. There's no incentives. There's no pricing incentives. There's no incentives on the day. And there's people like the SLOs who are trying their absolute best and do a wonderful job. And I think in really difficult circumstances, and we use the term managed decline before, Matt. Well, I use the term managed decline, and I think that's essentially what it is now. If not rapid decline, really, when you're talking about off the pitch. So it's a real shame because a lot of the sort of the relatability that kept me wanting to come back has gone now. Not just the fact that there was different clubs and what else that I could join when I first started going. Players on the pitch, academy players. We don't have that anymore. I see recently, we've had this college team that have just been absolutely battered by Warrington. I don't know what level. There's no disrespect to these college lads. I don't know what level they are. Is it fair to send them out against? There's some experienced professionals who play for that Warrington team. Is it fair to send them out against a team like that? What have they learned from that? I wouldn't say a lot. What is it gaining the football club at the moment? I don't know. Probably not a lot. So I think as a club, we've got away from being what we are, which is a community-based club, and competing against not just Liverpool and Everton, but other Northwest giants. We need to try harder to encourage the next generation, because I worry now that kids my age at the time I went to that Norwich game, would they come back? I think it'd take a lot of persuasion from the parents. So I just hope that in the next couple of years, before I do take my daughter, maybe something will change, and I think it needs to.